I decided I needed to make a little selfie stick so that I wasn't quite so close to the phone. Yesterday, as I kind of looked a little bit, all I could see was me, and it was hard to look at me in the phone all the time, and then it didn't look like I was looking at you guys. So anyway, I'll try to do this on somewhat of a regular basis, maybe try every day. And what I think I'm going to do is, there's a daily Bible reading that I do each day. I have it on my phone, and also I get an email in the morning from Daily Bread, and on that email is also what I read from my Bible each day. And the reading from the Old Testament today was the beginning of the story of Samson, and it goes on and it just kind of continues. You read part of the Old Testament, part of the New Testament. I want to visit a little bit about the gospel lesson. What's in the gospel of the New Testament today is from Luke 6. And Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he starts out with, but I say to you, love your enemies. Ooh, love your enemies. It's hard to do that, love your enemies. We'd much rather continue just to dislike them and to ignore them. And don't do harm to them. You know, it says to do good to those who hate you and bless those who curse you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Don't look at a person for who they are. And as I read that earlier, I'm going to walk around in my shop a little bit, just kind of try to ignore the background. But anyway, as I read that earlier, I thought about who our people are that we interact with each and every day, and how we treat them. Love your enemies, love those who are different from you. And it reminded me of when I was growing up. I was probably in 7th, 8th grade out in the station with my dad, and a car pulled up for gas. Dad went out to put gas in the car, and the woman that was in the car came in the station, a Native American woman. And Dad had a box on the counter right by the cash register of book matches. This said Bob Service, McHenry, North Dakota. They were free advertising matches. And this lady said to me, "Penny for a book of matches, sir?" She called me sir. I mean, here I am, a young kid. "Penny for a book of matches?" And I said, "No, ma'am, they're free." And she says, "No, not for us." She was Native American. And this was the way she was treated. Wave at a couple that are watching that asked about a wave anyway. So it's good to have you tune in. A lot of positive comments yesterday, and as I said, it's still kind of intimidating, but anyway, it's hard to love people and accept people who are different than we are, but Jesus says that that's what we are to do. And for those of us, I mean, like myself, I'm Northern European, I'm German, Norwegian, and I tend to think of Jesus looking like me, but he didn't really look like me, and he didn't look like most of you either. But this was the way it was. It says, if we love those who love us, what credit is that to us? Do good to all of those in our region. And he goes on to then say, do not judge, lest you should be judged. And then he says, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive those who do wrong to you. We hear those words, do not judge, thrown at us often in today's society, that we are not to judge somebody. Yes, we are to judge. The Bible tells us we are to judge, and if our neighbor is doing something wrong, we are to come to them on our own or with a group of church leaders or with some other people and to speak to this person. We judge between right and wrong. If somebody goes in and steals something, that's wrong. We judge that. We have people in jails. Jails are full of people who have done things wrong. I remember another time growing up when I was just a young lad playing with my friend Ronald Dawson. His grandpa, Anton, had one of the stores in McHenry, and Ronald and I would come in the back door and go up the front door, and we'd go in and out on a regular basis. One day as we went in through the back door, through the back room, there was a big box there of gumballs, the nice big inch diameter gumballs. And Ronald took one and put it in his mouth, and so I did too. And Ronald looked at me and says, "You can't take one. I can take one because it's my grandpa." Well, I never thought about it that way. But it was different if I took one. It was different if I took one. And Ronald judged me properly, that, I didn't have the right to take that. I mean, Ronald was maybe not 100% in the right either, taking it from his grandpa without his grandpa knowing, but for me especially, it wasn't what I should be doing. Just be careful with a lot of things that way, about who we are and what we do. And then Jesus told him a parable about, a blind person can't lead another blind person. They're just going to end up, in a pit and stuff that way. And then he said, why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but you do not notice the log in your own? And that takes me back to when I started today, and I talked about looking at myself in this phone. For me to look at me so that it looks like I'm looking at you is disconcerting, because I got to look at me. And we have to do that. We have to self-examine ourselves as far as our sinful nature, as who we are, as how we treat others. We need a self-examination so that we can ask God for forgiveness. Because it says in this text, just as Jesus taught us to pray about forgiving others if you want to be forgiven. The Lord's Prayer, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, or forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, whichever way you want to say it. It's the only conditional part of the Lord's Prayer. And it makes it hard to forgive others. But again, we have to examine ourselves, find the speck in our own eye. We can't tell somebody else that you got to straighten yourself out if we're not straightened out to begin with ourselves either. And at the end of that paragraph, he says that, good comes out of the goodness of the heart. Evil comes out of the evil parts of who you are. And so if your heart is filled with good things will come from you. He says, this is what Jesus says, that the good person out of the good treasure of the heart produces good. And the evil person out of the evil of the heart produces evil. For it is out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. It's out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. I don't know, you can't see my heart here, but I was tapping on it. It's out of the heart that the mind speaks. It's what we have in our hearts that others are going to really see. It's in our hearts. It's our deep rootedness. It's how we're brought up. That's how we're going to treat other people each and every day. Jesus talks one more thing in this scripture reading from Luke 6 today, and he talks about having the firm foundation. He says that it isn't the house on the sand and the house on the rock. In Luke, it's just the man building a house digs deeply and lays a foundation. And when a flood arose and a river burst against it, the house withstood it because it was well built. He says, the one who hears me and acts on my word will be the one that survives. What is your foundation of your life built on? Is your foundation built on hope? Is your foundation built on Jesus Christ? On Christ, the solid rock I stand, all other ground is firm sinking sand? Words from a song. What's the foundation of your life? What do you base your daily decisions on? Do you rush around basing things on hopes, wonderings? Or do you base your life and shape it around God and God's love? Do you know that you are a loved and forgiven sinner, a child of God? Child of God. We often forget that. This morning, Cheryl was trying to take a picture out the window of the geese flying over. And I can look out my shop window right now. I'll get my finger so you can see. I'm looking out the window of my door, and the geese are flying, coming off the feed and flying. They are rejoicing in another day that God has made. All of the chaos, all of the troubles that you and I are looking at in the world, for the animals, it's just another day in God's great creation. Think about it that way for you too. Today is another day that God has given you. May you be blessed in his love. See you maybe tomorrow. Bye for now.